Chapter 1689. Alright, take out your wind cores. Returning to Dao. Luo Shuehan waved his hand and pieces of sparkling wind cores appeared in the sky. There were a total of 43 wind cores. 43 wind cores, not bad. Returning to Dao, someone beside him recorded the number of wind cores that Luo Shuehan had. Luo Shuehan's face was cold and arrogant. He did not believe that the others would have more wind cores than him. Following that, the other heavenly god sect disciples began to take out their wind cores. The second person had a much smaller number of wind cores, only 25 of them. However, the next 10 people each had 20 wind cores. However, when it came to the 11th person, he shook his head, indicating that he did not have any. Starting from the 11th person, the other 10 people shook their heads and retreated to the side. It seems that the heavenly god sect's wind cores have been redistributed to the 10 strongest people, Zifeng said. Lu Ming nodded. It was obvious that they were not the only ones. The other sects had also distributed their wind cores. The weaker wind cores were given to the stronger wind cores in the hope that more people would enter the second round. Indeed, most of the sects that came after had their wind cores distributed. Only the stronger ones had wind cores while the weaker ones did not have a single one. Of course, it was impossible for every sect to have as many wind cores as the heavenly god sect. The top 10 people each had more than 20 wind cores. Some of the top 10 people had at least 10 wind cores. One by one, the sects went up. Luo Shuehan looked at Lu Ming and the rest and sneered, "What's wrong? Why aren't the Divine Dragon Valley going up to check the wind cores? Don't you have too few wind cores? We have too many wind cores and we don't want to scare you." Tian Chue grinned. "Too many? You're shameless." Luo Shuehan sneered. "Let's go up." At that moment, Zifeng spoke and stepped forward to returning to Dao. He waved his hand and a pile of wind cores appeared in front of him. There was a total of 31 wind cores. Haha, only 31 wind cores. Zifeng, you're ranked last among the Kang state geniuses. Luo Shuehan sneered. Indeed, the other monstrous geniuses who had gone up to count all had over 30 pieces. Zifeng had the least. It was not that Zifeng's wind cores were not as good as the other geniuses. It was obvious that some of the other geniuses had taken some wind cores from other disciples, which was why they had so many of them. As for Zifeng, he did not take it from anyone else in Dragon God Valley. His thoughts were the same as Lu Ming and the others. As long as there were enough people, it would be fine. Zifeng smiled faintly and ignored Luo Shuehan. Then, Lu Ming stepped forward. With a wave of his hand, 30 wind cores appeared. Luo Shuehan narrowed her eyes and sneered, 30 pieces? Looks like quite a number of Dragon God Valley disciples have obtained wind cores in your hands, right? Lu Ming glanced indifferently at Luo Shuehan. His eyes were filled with ridicule and contempt, causing Luo Shuehan to feel even more displeased. Then, Tian Chue and Xuening Xin stepped forward and each took out 30 wind cores, which shocked the others. Luo Shuehan's face became even gloomier. She said, "It seems that your Dragon God Valley has gathered all the wind cores on you guys. You actually gave so many wind cores to 2 people in the first stage of the half-saints. It's really unwise. It seems that Dragon God Valley will be at the bottom this time." The others were shocked. Dragon God Valley had gathered most of the wind cores in the hands of Lu Ming and the others. That was why they had so many wind cores. Otherwise, they would not believe that Tian Chue and Xuening Xin, 2 first-stage half-saints, would be able to obtain 30 wind cores. Idiots. Tian Chue said disdainfully. Luo Shuehan's eyes turned cold. Tian Chue dared to call her an idiot. "You're courting death." Luo Shuehan's eyes flashed. Then, the others from Dragon God Valley stepped forward and took out their wind cores. 26 pieces, 25 pieces, 23 pieces. In the end, there were 15 people in Dragon God Valley, including Lu Ming and the others, and they took out more than 20 wind cores. Luo Shuehan was stunned, and so were the others. How is this possible? Someone shouted in disbelief. This was especially true for the geniuses from the other sects who were participating in the competition. They knew very well how fast the demonic beasts were and how hard it was to capture them. Dragon God Valley had obtained so many wind cores. Luo Shuihan's face was flushed red. Dragon God Valley doesn't have many wind cores, but only 15 people have obtained more than 20 wind cores. There are still 5 senior brothers who have not obtained any wind cores. I'm ashamed. Tian Chue stared at Luo Shuihan and sighed. Phut, some of the onlookers laughed out loud, especially the people from Dragon God Valley, who laughed out loud. Tian Chue was openly mocking Luo Shuihan. Some people are just shameless. Others don't want to talk to him, but he keeps asking to be slapped. Does he like the feeling of being slapped? Lu Ming said. His words were more direct and full of sarcasm. Luo Shuihan's face was incomparably gloomy as a cold light flickered continuously. His body was trembling from anger. Luo Shuihan took a deep breath to calm himself down. He snorted and said, "You're just lucky. When you enter the second round, you'll have to rely on your strength. Let's see how you'll die then." Luo Shuihan, remember what you said. Lu Ming replied coldly. In an instant, Dragon God Valley and Heavenly God Sect were at loggerheads. Both sides retreated to the side and waited quietly. Not long after, everyone was counted and Po Yuangui started to announce the rankings. Po Yuangui only announced the top 80 people. Without exception, the top 15 from Dragon God Valley had entered the second round, becoming the sect with the most people in the second round. The Heavenly God Sect with the second most people only had 10 people. The sect with the least number of people only had 4 people in the second round. There were a total of 10 sects and 80 people in the second round. On average, each sect had 8 people. Dragon God Valley had 15 of them, which had greatly exceeded the average. Lu Ming was ranked 9th, second only to Zi Feng. Of course, no one thought that Lu Ming's combat strength was enough to be ranked 9th and compete with the top 10 monstrous geniuses of the Kang state. The number of wind cores didn't mean anything. Didn't they see that Tian Chue and Xuening Xin had 30 wind cores? They were tied with Lu Ming. Many people from Dragon God Valley had 20 wind cores and were ranked in the top 10 or 20. Luck. Many people thought that Dragon God Valley must be lucky to have obtained a large number of wind cores. After the rankings were announced, everyone returned to their seats and waited for the second round to begin. Po Yuangui looked around and started to announce the rules of the second round. As mentioned before, the second round of the competition was to take turns. Each person would have to fight with the others one by one. One victory would earn 1 point. Chapter 1690. However, there were some other rules in the process of the competition. For example, admitting defeat. Before the competition started, one could admit defeat. But once one admitted defeat, one would lose the right to participate in the following competitions and would be eliminated in advance. However, one could keep their points. For example, if one had already obtained 5 points and met an opponent he couldn't defeat, he could take the initiative to admit defeat before the battle started. This way, he could keep his 5 points, but would lose the right to participate in the following competitions. But once the battle started, one couldn't admit defeat. Once the battle started, one would either be defeated, rushed off the fighting ring, or killed. Only then would the battle end. Once the battle started, one couldn't admit defeat. However, if one rushed off the fighting ring, it would be considered a failure. Not only could one keep their current points, but they could also continue to participate in the following competitions. It was the same if one was defeated or knocked off the fighting ring. But once one was killed, one's points would be reduced to 0. In other words, no matter how many points one had, once one was killed, one would have 0 points. Therefore, the best choice was to keep one's life without admitting defeat. Moreover, the competition was different from the treasure sorting convention. It wasn't forbidden to use holy weapons. Because the participants of the treasure sorting convention were all powerful. Many of them were half-saints. They could only display the power of holy weapons if they used them. But there was one very important point. The winner of the convention would receive an extra 10 points. Therefore, the first place was especially important. 10 points could often decide the winner. The Celestial God sect had won many competitions in a row. The first place played an important role. Alright, the rules have been explained. Now, let's begin the second round. I'll randomly draw lots. The two people I draw will fight each other. When everyone has fought, the first round will end. Po Yuangui said. Then he took out a box with the names of the 80 people who had entered the second round. Po Yuangui drew two names. Long Bing, Luo Shuihan. Po Yuangui called out their names. Many people were shocked. They didn't expect Luo Shuihan to fight in the first round of the second round. Luo Shuihan stood up and stepped onto the fighting ring. In the area of Dragon God Valley, a young man stood up with an ugly expression. Long Bing was one of the 15 people in Dragon God Valley. Long Bing's expression was very bad. He did not expect that the first person he met would be Luo Shuihan. However, there were a total of 80 people, and 15 of them were from the Dragon God Valley. Long Bing, you are no match for Luo Shuihan. Go up and admit defeat. Zifeng warned Long Bing. Long Bing nodded and jumped onto the fighting ring. Haha, looks like I'm pretty lucky. I'm going to meet someone from Divine Dragon Valley in the first round. Luo Shuihan laughed as a sharp light flashed in his eyes. Now, let the battle begin. Breaking Origin returns announced. Admit defeat. Luo Shuihan said indifferently. A look of struggle flashed in Long Bing's eyes. If he admitted defeat just like this, then his progress in the treasure auction would stop here, and he wouldn't be able to obtain a single point. In the second round, the Dragon God Valley would give out a large amount of contribution points for every point obtained. It was the same for the other sects. He was unwilling to admit defeat just like that. Bang! Long Bing took a heavy step and rushed to the edge of the fighting ring. As long as he rushed down from the fighting ring, he would be considered to have lost this round. However, he could still continue to compete in the following rounds. He had the cultivation of the first stage of the half-sage realm. So, it was still possible for him to obtain points in the following rounds. Oh no! Seeing that Long Bing didn't admit defeat and wanted to rush down from the fighting ring, Zifeng and the others were shocked. If he didn't admit defeat, then he would lose the chance to admit defeat. Haha, since you don't admit defeat, then I'll send you on your way. Luo Shuihan was overjoyed. His body was bathed in holy light. He moved like a ray of holy light and rushed toward Long Bing. In an instant, he caught up with Long Bing. With a wave of his hand, a holy light palm print blasted toward Long Bing. Long Bing's face turned pale. He moved and changed his direction, rushing to the other side. You can't escape. A cold light flashed in Luo Shuihan's eyes. He condensed a spear of divine punishment in his hand and shot it at lightning speed. Poochie. The spear of divine punishment directly pierced through one of Long Bing's legs. Long Bing's leg exploded. He screamed and fell to the ground with a look of despair on his face. Luo Shuihan took a step forward and appeared in front of Long Bing. His eyes were cold as he said, "You don't admit defeat when facing me. Only death awaits you." With a wave of his hand, a ray of holy light slashed and cut off one of Long Bing's arms. Blood splattered everywhere. Ah, Luo Shuihan, kill me if you want. Don't humiliate me, Long Bing roared. Bang! Luo Shuihan stepped on Long Bing's face and said coldly, "Do I need you to teach me whether I want to kill you or not? You people from the Dragon God Valley are all audacious. How dare you offend me? You all deserve to die." Poochie. Another ray of holy light slashed and cut off Long Bing's other arm. Damn it, Luo Shuihan, do it if you want to. Zifeng roared like a violent dragon. The other people from the Dragon God Valley were also furious. The killing intent in Lu Ming's eyes grew colder. Luo Shuihan did it on purpose. He could have killed Long Bing in one move, but he tortured him like this to take revenge on the Dragon God Valley and Lu Ming. Haha, if you want to blame someone, blame Lu Ming. He doesn't know what's good for him. Luo Shuihan laughed and stomped on the ground. Long Bing exploded. Luo Shuihan looked at Lu Ming and smiled. So what if the Dragon God Valley has a lot of people in the second round? No matter how many people there are, I'll just kill them all. Luo Shuihan, you'd better admit defeat when you meet me. Otherwise, you'll die a horrible death. Lu Ming spoke, his voice as cold as a knife. He had to kill Luo Shuehan. You want to kill me? I'll wait for you, Luo Shuehan said coldly. Then, he jumped off the fighting ring. The first round of the competition ended just like that. Junior brothers and sisters, if you meet someone whose cultivation is too far apart, just admit defeat. Don't take any chances. Zifeng sent a voice transmission to the other participants of the Dragon God Valley. Everyone nodded. If the difference in cultivation was too great, they couldn't even rush off the fighting ring. The second round, Zifeng versus Liu De. The voice of Origin Returner was heard. It's my turn in the second round. Zifeng got up and stepped onto the fighting ring. I'm really unlucky. A young man stood up in the Heavenly King's Hall's area. He was indeed unlucky to meet one of the top 10 monsters in the first round. Junior brother, just admit defeat. The monster from the Heavenly King's Hall urged. Liu De stepped onto the fighting ring. When Origin Returner announced the start of the round, Liu De admitted defeat. Admitting defeat meant that he was eliminated in advance. He wouldn't be able to participate in the next round. In this way, there were only 78 people left. In theory, all 80 people would have to fight, and in the end, everyone would have to fight 80 rounds. In reality, it was impossible to fight that many rounds. Chapter 1691. Liu De admitted defeat. Zifeng received 1 point and returned to the spectator stand. Next, Yuan Pegue continued to draw lots and the competition continued. In the third round, the two geniuses' cultivations were about the same. One of them was a stage 2 half-saint, while the other was a stage 1 half-saint. In fact, those who could enter the second round were all stage 1 half-saints. Many of them had superior earth spiritual bodies, and a few of them were medium earth spiritual bodies. They were the top geniuses of the top 10 sects in the Kang Prefecture. Each one of them was very strong. In this round, the stage 1 half-saint tried his best to get off the fighting ring. The difference of 1 level made it impossible for the stage 1 half-saint to win. In the end, the stage 1 half-saint paid a small price and got off the fighting ring. This way, he could at least continue to compete. The matches were carried out one after another. Soon, more than 30 matches had been carried out. Some people admitted defeat, while others were killed. Those who met one of the top 10 geniuses all admitted defeat. The difference was too big. They could only admit that they were unlucky. In the Dragon God Valley, there were also a few people who admitted defeat. However, Tian Chue and Xuening Xin were lucky. Their opponents were stage 1 half-saints, just like them. There was no doubt that Tian Chue and Xuening Xin were very powerful at the same level, so they both defeated their opponents and got 1 point. Lu Ming paid attention to Luo Xiong from the Life and Death Sword sect. Luo Xiong, who had competed with him in the Kang Emperor Mystery Realm, had become very powerful. Stage 2 half-saint. And his spiritual body had become a superior earth spiritual body. He nurtured his sword soul for 15 years, and now his sword soul is feeding back to his spiritual body. What a terrifying cultivation method! Lu Ming exclaimed in his heart. Lu Ming's cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds in the 100-tribe battlefield. However, Luo Xiong's cultivation speed was not inferior to his. It was really shocking. Moreover, Luo Xiong's combat strength was unfathomable. A stage 1 half-saint from the Desire Poison sect wanted to get off the fighting ring, but a sword light flashed and he was killed. This person is very strong. Even Zifeng furrowed his brows, revealing a solemn expression. Lu Ming against Hu Xiao. At this moment, the sound of returning origin breaking rang out. It was Lu Ming's turn. Lu Ming stood up and took a step forward, appearing on the battle stage. Lu Ming's opponent was a young genius from the Demon Castle, who was in the first stage of the half-saint realm. Roar! Hu Xiao roared and transformed into his true form, which was a gigantic demonic tiger. His eyes were filled with savagery as he said, Lu Ming, although your battle prowess is not bad, I'm not afraid of you. Let's fight. When Lu Ming was outside the treasure pavilion, he had slaughtered many second-stage half-saints with ease. However, those people's spiritual bodies were not of a high level. Hu Xiao, on the other hand, had a superior earthly spiritual body. When the referee announced the start of the match, Hu Xiao roared and pounced at Lu Ming. His claws were as sharp as blades as he clawed at Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming was faster. In a flash, he appeared in front of Hu Xiao and punched him in the jaw. Hu Xiao's huge body was sent flying. He rolled a few times on the battle stage before he could get up. After getting up, Hu Xiao did not dare to continue fighting. He ran away and rushed down the battle stage. Lu Ming stood there and did not stop him. He watched as Hu Xiao rushed down the battle stage. The Demon Castle and Dragon God Valley had a good relationship. Lu Ming did not need to kill Hu Xiao. Moreover, Lu Ming could not show too much of his battle prowess. Otherwise, how could he lure the people of the Celestial Sect? It seems that Lu Ming's battle prowess is only average. His speed is a little faster, but his attack power is not too strong. He only injured Hu Xiao but did not kill him. That's normal. Demonic beasts have strong defense. Lu Ming's cultivation is not that high either. Sure enough, people were discussing. Lu Ming smiled and returned to the spectator stand. He had scored 1 point. The matches continued. Soon, all 80 people and 40 matches were over. After the end of this round of competition, only 60 out of 80 people could continue to participate in the next round of competition. The other 20 people were either killed or admitted defeat. In fact, there were 9 of the top 10 geniuses of Zhangzhou participating in the treasure pedestal meeting. The last one was from one of the 3 sects that had been eliminated. 9 geniuses were enough to make 9 people admit defeat. There were others who admitted defeat or were killed. After 1 round, there were only 60 people left. The number of people left would be even lower in the later rounds. In this round, 1 person from the Dragon God Valley was killed and 3 people admitted defeat. There were 11 people left. Out of these 11 people, 8 of them were defeated. They had scored 8 points. This score ranked them first among the top 10 sects for the time being. The Heavenly God sect was in second place with 6 points. They're only in the lead for now. Let's see where they'll rank when we kill those with points later. Luo Shuihan said coldly in the Heavenly God sect area. Next, Po Yuangui put the names of the remaining 60 people into a box and started drawing lots again for the second round of matches. Lu Ming, Shi Yu. Po Yuangui announced the names. I didn't expect to be in the first round of the second round. Lu Ming smiled and stepped onto the fighting ring. At the same time, a young man jumped onto the fighting ring from the Heavenly God sect area. It's a disciple of the Heavenly God sect. Finally, a cold light flashed in Lu Ming's eyes. You're not admitting defeat? Lu Ming asked. Why should I admit defeat to you? Do you think you can kill me? The Heavenly God sect's genius, Shi Yu, sneered. Lu Ming smiled and didn't say anything. Begin. Po Yuangui announced. When Po Yuangui's voice fell, Shi Yu moved and rushed to the edge of the fighting ring. He knew that he was no match for Lu Ming, but he had no problem rushing down the fighting ring. He had already obtained 1 point and didn't want to waste it. There was a hint of a smile at the corners of Lu Ming's lips. He moved and neared Shi Yu in an instant. The black dragon spear appeared in his hands. It expanded rapidly and swept toward Shi Yu. Shi Yu was shocked. He didn't expect Lu Ming to be so fast. A milky white battle sword appeared in his hand. It was undoubtedly a holy weapon. He slashed at Lu Ming. Clang! The battle sword and the black dragon spear collided. Shi Yu's body shook and slid back more than 10 meters. Lu Ming's body also shook. Lu Ming, your combat strength is only SOSO. Fight! Shi Yu saw that Lu Ming only pushed him back more than 10 meters, and Lu Ming's body also shook. Shi Yu's confidence was boosted. Lu Ming smiled faintly. He held the black dragon spear in his hand and started a battle with Shi Yu. Of course, this was a battle that Lu Ming had deliberately created. He still had to bait later on. If he suddenly revealed too much of his combat power and killed his opponent, the other members of the Celestial Divine Sect would not dare to fight Lu Ming and would simply admit defeat. Therefore, Lu Ming had to perform well. He exchanged more than 10 moves with Shiyu before his spear pierced through Shiyu's dantian and killed him. The Heavenly God Sect's genius is only SOSO. Chapter 1692. Damn it. Luo Shuihan's face was gloomy. The Divine Sun, on the other hand, was expressionless. Well done, junior brother. After Lu Ming returned to the spectator stand, Tian Chue laughed. After that, the competition continued. Compared to the first round, this round was much more intense. Many people had gained points, so naturally, they wouldn't give up easily. Unless they encountered the top 10 geniuses, they would admit defeat if the difference was too great. Round after round. Without a doubt, the top 10 geniuses didn't even need to make a move before their opponents admitted defeat. In this round, Xuening Xin was unlucky to encounter one of the top 10 geniuses, Wang Jian, so she had no choice but to admit defeat. As for Tian Chue, he was lucky enough to encounter another person of the same level. He defeated his opponent and gained 2 points. When the second round of 30 matches ended, another 16 people were eliminated. Only 44 people could continue to participate in the competition. Dragon God Valley still had 7 people, and they were still in first place. Then, the third round began. In this round, Lu Ming was unsure if his luck was good or bad. He actually encountered another first-stage half-saint, who didn't admit defeat. As soon as the competition began, he rushed to the edge of the fighting ring. Lu Ming didn't chase after him and allowed him to rush down the fighting ring. In this way, Lu Ming easily gained 3 points. Zifeng, of course, also won. He also gained 3 points. However, Tian Chue's luck came to an end. In this round, he also encountered one of the top 10 geniuses, and it was Mo Yang. Tian Chue admitted defeat, which made Mo Yang snort coldly. Tian Chue had mocked Mo Yang many times. If Tian Chue didn't admit defeat, Mo Yang would definitely kill him. After the third round of the competition ended, there were only 30 people left. As the competition progressed, the number of people would get smaller and smaller. Therefore, in theory, there were 80 people in the beginning. In reality, there was no need to fight so many battles. In the fourth round, there were only 30 people fighting. The cultivation of these 30 people could be said to be very strong. At this point, the first stage half-saints had all been eliminated. The rest were second-stage half-saints. Of course, the others didn't know Lu Ming's specific cultivation because Lu Ming had been hiding it with his illusory breath. Peyuan Gui continued to draw lots. This round of battles was undoubtedly even more intense. Many people had similar cultivation levels, so they naturally wouldn't admit defeat so easily. The battle was incomparably intense. Perhaps it was due to luck, but the top 10 geniuses still did not encounter each other in this round. Instead, they defeated their opponents separately. Lu Ming met a second-stage semisage opponent in this round. His opponent naturally wouldn't admit defeat. So, he fought a fierce battle with Lu Ming. And, Lu Ming deliberately entangled with his opponent for dozens of moves. Then, he finally knocked his opponent out of the battle arena. After this round, there were still 26 people left. Dragon God Valley was still in the lead. Temph, that Lu Ming won't be arrogant for long, someone from the Heavenly Divinity sect said unhappily. Then the fifth round, the sixth round, slowly, the number of people dwindled. After the eighth round, there were only 18 people left. Lu Ming's luck was surprisingly good. He didn't encounter any of the top 10 Evilders. He won all the way and obtained 8 points. As for the top 10 monsters, they did not encounter each other either. At this time, the ninth round began. Wang Jian, Mo Yang. At this time, Yuan Gui's voice was heard, which shocked many people. Are the top 10 monsters finally going to collide? Here comes the highlight. Now, there were only 18 people left, including 9 of the top 10 monsters. They were definitely going to encounter each other. Next was the real exciting part of the treasure sorting convention. Previously, the top 10 monsters had defeated everyone else, and each of them had obtained 8 points. But now, some people's points would stop increasing, while others would continue to increase. The total points of the top 10 sects would be pulled apart. Wang Jian and Mo Yang stepped into the battle arena and looked at each other. Mo Yang, you were no match for me 3 years ago. This time, you are no match for me either, Wang Jian said. Sword chi surged from his body. Wang Jian was a peerless monster from the Nine Heaven Sword sect. He had strong combat strength and unparalleled swordsmanship. 3 years ago, before Luo Shuihan's rise, Wang Jian was ranked second among the top 10 of elders. He was competing with the Divine Sun. Unfortunately, he was not only defeated by the Divine Sun, but also by Luo Shuihan, dropping to 3rd place. How will we know if we don't fight? I must defeat you in this battle, Mo Yang said. Demonic chi surged from his body, making him look like a demon god. When the referee announced the start of the battle, the two men moved at the same time. Sword shakes the 9 heavens. Demonic roars to the world. The two men were old rivals. As soon as they attacked, they burst out with all their strength. There was no need to test each other. In the fierce confrontation, the Dharma permeated the battle arena. Roars continued to sound as terrifying collisions occurred. In the surroundings, everyone was watching without blinking. Many people were shocked and exclaimed repeatedly, marveling at the battle prowess of the two. However, after watching for a while, Lu Ming lost interest. He had seen this kind of combat strength many times in the 100-clan battlefield, so he was not interested. Mo Yang and Wang Jian exchanged hundreds of blows. In the end, Wang Jian gained the upper hand and defeated Mo Yang, continuing to win. Of course, Mo Yang was defeated, so he could continue to fight. Mo Yang's face was cold as he returned to the spectator stand. The battle continued. Next, after 2 more battles, another heavyweight battle was ushered in. It was another battle between the top 10 monsters. Zifeng was fighting against the Heavenly King Hall's monster, Wang Tsong. This battle could be said to be evenly matched. The two men exchanged hundreds of blows, and in the end, Zifeng won by a slight margin and won. Lu Ming, Lu Yuan. The voice of breaking Yuan returns rang out. Lu Yuan, from the Celestial God sect. Lu Ming finally came to his senses. He took a step forward and appeared on the battle arena. Finally, he met another genius from the Celestial God sect. Lu Yuan stepped onto the battle arena and stood opposite Lu Ming. Lu Ming, it seems that there is no need for senior brother Luo Shuihan to make a move. You will die at my hand. Lu Yuan's eyes were cold, and his whole body emitted a cold metallic luster. His aura was extremely powerful. Lu Yuan's combat strength was very strong. He also had a superior earth spiritual body, and his cultivation had reached the 3rd stage of the half-saint realm. In the Zhangzhou, he was second only to the top 10 monsters. In fact, of the remaining 18 people, 9 were monsters, while the other 9 were second only to the top 10 monsters. Each of them was a top genius, and they were all eyeing the top 10 monsters. You talk too much nonsense, Lu Ming said faintly. Kill. After the referee announced the start of the battle, Lu Yuan roared and rushed toward Lu Ming. The metallic luster on his body became even more intense, and his whole person seemed to have turned into a piece of metal. What he cultivated was not the core cultivation method of the Celestial God sect, the sacred light technique. It was only because his spiritual body did not match, but it was still very terrifying. Boom. Lu Ming threw out a punch and collided with Lu Yuan's. Clang. Chapter 1693. Not bad. You can take one of my punches. Come again. Lu Yuan roared and took a step forward. His body was like a metal mountain as he charged towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming poured his true essence into the flowing essence gloves as he exchanged blows with Lu Yuan. In the blink of an eye, they had exchanged dozens of blows. Lu Ming is so strong. He can actually fight Lu Yuan. It's indeed amazing. Could it be that Lu Ming has been holding back? Look, Lu Ming's aura is completely exposed. He's in the 2nd stage of the half-step saint realm. It's really the 2nd stage of the half-step saint realm. It's amazing that a 2nd stage half-step saint has such strong combat strength. Many people exclaimed in surprise. Previously, Lu Ming was able to defeat a 2nd stage half-step saint genius. That was because Lu Ming had used dozens of blows to defeat his opponent. But now, Lu Ming could actually fight Lu Yuan. Everyone was shocked. Boom. Boom. In the blink of an eye, the two had exchanged dozens of blows. Damn it. Lu Yuan roared in his heart. He couldn't take down Lu Ming and began to feel anxious. It's about time. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Then, he formed a seal with both hands. 6 doors of sealing appeared and sealed Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan's movements suddenly stiffened. Not good. Lu Yuan turned pale with fright. Kill. Lu Ming took out the black dragon spear and stabbed at Lu Yuan's dantian. Poochie. The black dragon spear pierced Lu Yuan's dantian. Lu Yuan let out an unwilling roar and died. Lu Yuan is dead. Many people were shocked. What a powerful sealing technique. It turns out that Lu Ming is good at sealing techniques. I know now. He has been hiding it and deliberately fought Lu Yuan. Then, he suddenly used the Book of Seals to freeze Lu Yuan, who was caught off guard. Then, he killed Lu Yuan in one fell swoop. Indeed, this is Lu Ming's tactic. Lu Yuan was too careless. Many people were discussing, thinking that Lu Ming died because of his own carelessness. In the stands, Luo Shuihan's gaze was as cold as a knife. Lu Ming had actually killed Lu Yuan. This way, the Heavenly Divinity sect would be at a disadvantage. Once Lu Yuan died, his points would return to 0. That would be extremely disadvantageous to the Heavenly Divinity sect's total points. Originally, the Heavenly God sect had a great advantage among the remaining 18 people. Because of the remaining 18 people, 3 of them were from the Heavenly God sect. In addition to Luo Shuihan, there was another genius who was similar to Lu Yuan. Moreover, a genius like Lu Yuan would not be killed even when facing the top 10 monstrous geniuses. If he wanted to rush down the battle platform, the top 10 monstrous geniuses would not be able to kill him. If this continued, the Celestial God sect's points would soon surpass the Dragon God Valley's. At that time, as long as he killed Lu Ming, even if he didn't kill Lu Ming, as long as he obtained first place, the Celestial God sect would be able to secure first place. But who would have thought that Lu Yuan would be killed by Lu Ming due to his carelessness? Now the Heavenly Divinity sect was a little mysterious. Lu Ming must die. Luo Shuihan thought to himself. Luo Shuihan, it's your turn next. I will send you to accompany Lu Yuan. Lu Ming pulled out his blooded spear and pointed it at Luo Shuihan, then returned to the spectator stand. Then, the battle continued. The next battle piqued the crowd's interest again. Luo Xiong against a monstrous genius. Luo Xiong had previously displayed terrifying combat strength. Once he used the life and death sword art, no one could defeat him. It was amazing that he had reached this stage as a stage 2 half-saint. Now, how would he perform when facing one of the top 10 monstrous geniuses? But when the battle began, everyone's jaws dropped. The sword radiance swept across, completely suppressing the monstrous genius. In just a dozen moves, the monstrous genius was in danger and almost had his throat slit. In the end, he used all his strength to rush down the battle platform in an injured state. This made everyone dumbfounded. They could not believe it. A stage 2 half-saint had defeated one of the top 10 monstrous geniuses. This kind of combat strength was really shocking. He's so powerful. I'm no match for him, Zifeng said with a bitter expression. The other monstrous geniuses looked solemn as they watched Luo Xiong's proud figure in the battle platform. How could the Life and Death Sword faction have such a person? Luo Shuihan's expression was the worst among the crowd. If Luo Xiong was so powerful now, he would be no match for him after he broke through the bottleneck of the law. Wouldn't the top monstrous genius in the Kang prefecture change in the future? No, I have to find a chance to get rid of Luo Xiong in the future. Luo Shuihan's eyes flashed with coldness. He could not let others take away his throne as the top monstrous genius in the Kang prefecture. Luo Xiong's sword art is sometimes fast and sometimes slow. It's unpredictable. Could it be the legendary law of speed? Lu Ming's eyes showed that he was pondering. Lu Ming had obtained part of the 9 dragons' memory fragments, so his knowledge was naturally far above the others. He could tell that the law Luo Xiong comprehended was most likely the law of speed. In the world, the top 10 supreme laws were undoubtedly the strongest. However, below the 10 supreme laws, there were still some laws that were extremely terrifying, far surpassing ordinary laws. The law of speed was at this level, second only to the 10 supreme laws. After Luo Xiong, it was Luo Shuihan's turn to fight with another genius. That genius was second only to the top 10 monstrous geniuses, but he was completely powerless against Luo Shuihan. He was suppressed by Luo Shuihan, and in the end, he was killed by Luo Shuihan before he could even escape from the battle platform. After killing his opponent, Luo Shuihan looked coldly at Lu Ming, full of provocation. Lu Ming had merely killed Lu Yuan due to Lu Yuan's carelessness. However, Lu Ming had completely suppressed and killed his opponent with his terrifying abilities. Lu Ming smiled faintly and did not bother with Luo Shuihan. Junior Lu Ming, Luo Shuihan's combat strength is even more terrifying than it was 3 years ago. If you are not confident in winning against him, just admit defeat. Zifeng sighed. Luo Shuihan's combat strength was too terrifying. Even he could only survive against Luo Shuihan. There was no chance of winning at all. My master won't lose. If that Luo Shuihan meets my master, he'll definitely be beaten until he pisses his pant. Xiong Xiong was unhappy and pouted at Lu Ming. In Xiong Xiong's eyes, Lu Ming was the strongest. How could he lose to others? Okay, your master is the strongest. Zifeng smiled bitterly. Of course. Only then did the little girl smile. This little girl. Lu Ming patted Xiong Xiong's little head dotingly. The following battles were extremely intense. The remaining geniuses of the Kang state naturally did not admit defeat. The battles were extremely intense. After the end of this round, there were 16 people left. The Divine Dragon Valley was still in the lead. A new round had begun. The first battle was between Zifeng and Wang Jian. In fact, at this stage, the method of drawing lots was no longer used, because some people had already fought. If they drew lots and drew the same 2 people again, wouldn't they have to fight again? There was no need for that. Next, it was completely up to Peyuan to rank himself. Zifeng tried his best, but unfortunately, he was defeated by Wang Jian. Lu Ming, Luo Shuihan. Chapter 1694. Lu Ming, Luo Shuihan. Many people's eyes lit up when they heard these 2 names. Lu Ming had finally met Luo Shuihan. Many people were guessing whether Lu Ming would admit defeat. After all, if he didn't, Luo Shuihan would not let Lu Ming go. Is it finally time? It's earlier than I expected. Well, I don't have to hide my strength anymore after I've dealt with Luo Shuihan. Lu Ming smiled. He had been hiding his strength because he was waiting for Luo Shuihan. Otherwise, Lu Ming could kill these so-called geniuses with one punch. It wouldn't take much effort for him to do so. However, Luo Shuihan wouldn't dare to fight with him and would admit defeat immediately. Ha ha ha, I've finally met Lu Ming. Luo Shuihan was overjoyed. Senior brother Luo, you must kill Lu Ming and avenge senior brother Lu Yuan. In my opinion, there's no hope. Lu Ming must be scared shitless when he meets senior brother Luo. He won't have the courage to fight and will admit defeat immediately. You're right. After all, it's better to be a coward than to be killed. The disciples of the celestial sect spoke one after another. Their voices were loud and could be heard everywhere. Junior brother, don't fall for their provocation. Zifeng's expression changed. The people of the celestial sect were obviously saying this for Lu Ming to hear. They were afraid that Lu Ming would admit defeat immediately. Don't worry, senior brother. Lu Ming smiled and stepped out onto the fighting ring. At the same time, Luo Shuihan also landed on the fighting ring. Lu Ming, you'd better admit defeat. If you don't, you'll die. Luo Shuihan said coldly. His eyes were full of disdain. Luo Shuihan, you don't have to use such a despicable method to provoke me. However, as you wish, I won't surrender. Lu Ming said indifferently. Is that so? Luo Shuihan's eyes flashed with joy. The others were also shocked. Lu Ming didn't surrender. Was he going to fight with Luo Shuihan? Would he be able to survive Luo Shuihan's attack? Some of the people from Dragon God Valley looked worried. Lu Ming, I believe that this is not all you have. Within the territory of the Life and Death Sword faction, Luo Xiong carried a longsword on his back. His entire being was like an incomparably sharp sword as he stood there, muttering under his breath. Begin. At this moment, Origin Restoration's voice rang out. Kill. As soon as Po Yuangui finished speaking, Luo Shuihan shouted loudly. Holy light burst forth, and a holy spear appeared in his hand. He leaped high into the air and stabbed down at Lu Ming. The spear pierced through the air at an extremely fast speed. In an instant, it arrived in front of Lu Ming and stabbed towards Lu Ming's heart. Luo Shuihan wouldn't stab Lu Ming's dantian right from the start. Once the dantian was stabbed, the soul deity would collapse, and Lu Ming would die. Luo Shuihan wouldn't kill Lu Ming so easily. He wanted Lu Ming to suffer and let Lu Ming die in despair. Only then could he vent his hatred. Seeing that the spear was about to pierce Lu Ming's heart, many people's hearts were in their mouths. Why wasn't Lu Ming dodging? Could it be that Luo Shuihan was too fast and powerful, and had locked onto Lu Ming, making it difficult for Lu Ming to dodge? Such a thought appeared in many people's minds. At this moment, Lu Ming made his move. He stretched out a hand and grabbed the tip of the spear. Many people didn't even see how Lu Ming did it. Then, Luo Shuihan's spear stopped in the air, only a millimeter away from Lu Ming's chest. However, this millimeter couldn't pierce through. Kill. Luo Shuihan shouted. Holy light erupted, and the precepts flowed. He gathered all the strength in his body and poured it into the spear. The spear glowed and stabbed towards Lu Ming. However, it didn't move. The spear didn't move. Lu Ming's hand was like the hand of a god. It was as immovable as a mountain. How is this possible? How is this possible? Luo Shuihan's eyes almost popped out. He roared in his heart. It was simply unbelievable. He thought he was dreaming. He attacked with all the strength in his body, but it was caught by Lu Ming with one hand. He couldn't move at all. At this time, the others present were also dumbfounded. What was Luo Shuihan doing? Why was he frozen there? Is this all you've got? How disappointing. Lu Ming stared into Luo Shuihan's eyes and said indifferently. Looking into Lu Ming's eyes, Luo Shuihan's heart trembled. A chill spread throughout his body. At this moment, he knew that Lu Ming had been hiding his strength. Lu Ming's true strength was simply abnormal. He was no match for him. Retreat, retreat, retreat. At this time, there was only one word in Luo Shuihan's heart. However, it was too late. Buzz. The spear in his hand let out a buzzing sound. A terrifying force flowed from Lu Ming's hand through the spear and into his body. His body shook violently, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His body flew backward like a kite with a broken string. Whoosh! Lu Ming held Luo Shuihan's spear and turned it around. He took a step forward and caught up with Luo Shuihan. The spear pierced through Luo Shuihan's heart and nailed him to the fighting ring. Ah! Luo Shuihan screamed. His body twisted violently and he spat out large mouthfuls of blood. Although the heart was a vital point, with Luo Shuihan's spiritual body, he wouldn't die in a short time. As long as he was treated properly, he would recover quickly. At this moment, the whole place was silent. Everyone's eyes widened as they looked at the scene in disbelief. Luo Shuihan was nailed to the fighting ring by his own spear. How could this be? Luo Shuihan was powerless in Lu Ming's hands. He was as weak as a baby. Luo Shuihan was the #1 demon in Tsangzhou. Although it referred to the #1 demon below the Saint Realm, it was still shocking enough. However, he was nothing in the hands of Lu Ming. At this moment, they all knew that Lu Ming must have been hiding his strength. He was waiting for Luo Shuihan. He deliberately hid his strength to wait for Luo Shuihan. This thought appeared in many people's minds. It was ridiculous that the people of the Celestial Sect and Luo Shuihan had tried to provoke Lu Ming into not admitting defeat. It was too ridiculous. It was probably what Lu Ming wanted. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, Figures in the celestial sect stands suddenly stood up. Their bodies emitted a shocking aura. They were all Saint Realm experts. They were shocked and couldn't calm down. Luo Shuehan was defeated. At that moment, the divine child's expression finally changed. His eyes were filled with holy light, revealing his sharpness. Lu Ming, let go of me. Luo Shuehan roared. Let go of you. Ridiculous. Lu Ming's true ether condensed into a blade. With a slash, one of Luo Shuehan's arms flew out. Luo Shuehan let out a shrill cry. You treated the disciples of the Divine Dragon Valley like this before. Now, I'll return it to you. Lu Ming spoke coldly. His primordial energy was like a saber, slashing down again. Blood splattered everywhere. Luo Shuehan's other arm flew out. No, Lu Ming, don't kill me. Spare me. Chapter 1695. Luo Shuehan screamed and begged for mercy. Before this, not even in his wildest dreams would he have thought that this would be the outcome. 3 years ago, Lu Ming was only a 4th-level martial royal realm cultivator. How could he be so powerful now? Even he, the top genius of Zhangzhou, could not fight back. Luo Shuehan could not figure it out, but he just wanted to live. In the past, when he killed others, he looked down on them like ants. Now that it was his turn, Luo Shuehan realized how terrifying he was. Spare you? Is that possible? Don't you think it's funny? Lu Ming spoke nonchalantly, his tone full of disdain. Elder, save me, save me. Luo Shuehan screamed and begged the elders of the Celestial God sect for help. Lu Ming, you'd better let him go. An old man from the Heavenly God sect spoke. The aura that this old man exuded was extremely shocking. A vast saint aura spread out continuously, filling the area with an oppressive pressure. He was definitely a terrifying expert. He was far more powerful than an ordinary bright saint. He was a supreme saint. Haha, what a joke. You've lost the treasure sorting meeting and now you're threatening me. How shameless of a supreme saint. Purple Dragon Valley's Valley Master stood up and exuded a terrifying aura. He faced the supreme saint of the Celestial God sect and the atmosphere became even more oppressive. The supreme saint of the Celestial God sect looked gloomy. He knew that he had gone overboard by interfering as a supreme saint. However, Luo Shuehan was very talented. He was second only to the Divine Sun. If he didn't die, he would definitely become a saint in the future. It was even possible for him to become a supreme saint. He might even be able to become an absolute saint. How many supreme saints did the Celestial God sect have in all these years? There were not many supreme saints in Zhangzhou. They had accumulated over the years. It would be a great loss for them to be killed by Lu Ming. Buzz. The black dragon spear appeared in Lu Ming's hand. The spear light was shocking. Luo Shuehan, I'll send you to hell. Lu Ming said coldly. Luo Shuehan was scared out of his wits. He struggled and screamed. Lu Ming, you better think twice. The great saint of the Heavenly God sect said coldly. Reconsider? I only need to think once before I kill someone, why would I need to think thrice? Lu Ming responded. The black dragon spear pierced through Luo Shuehan's dantian and destroyed his spiritual deity. Luo Shuehan let out a roar of unwillingness. His eyes were as wide as a dead fish's. Never in his wildest dreams would he have imagined that his life would end like this. That he would be killed by Lu Ming in this place. Senior brother deity, avenge me. With a final roar, Luo Shuehan's life was extinguished. Luo Shuehan was dead. The great sages of the Celestial Divinity sect, as well as the other sage realm experts, burst forth with shocking auras. They looked coldly at Lu Ming, but in the end, they retracted their auras and sat down. This was the treasure ranking convention, and all the sects were present. If they broke the rules, they would be suppressed by the other sects. Luo Shuehan is dead. Many people murmured, still finding it hard to believe. Even the other geniuses felt the same way. They were somewhat stunned. The number one genius of the Zhangzhou state, the mountain that suppressed all the geniuses of the Zhangzhou state, was an insurmountable mountain. Yet, he was killed by Lu Ming so easily, which made them feel unreal. How could this be? How could this be? Mo Yang muttered to himself, as if he had been struck dumb. If Luo Shuihan was killed just like that, then what about him? How would he fare against Lu Ming? Thinking of this, he shuddered. How could Lu Ming's combat strength be so strong? I knew it. You were hiding your strength, but it was still beyond my expectations. Luo Xiong whispered, his eyes bursting with astonishing fighting spirit. However, in the next moment, his fighting spirit was completely retracted. Master is the most powerful. I knew Master was the most powerful. In the Dragon God Valley area, Lu Xiong exclaimed. She didn't seem to be surprised at all. In her heart, all of this was a matter of course. Well, my eyesight is not as good as a little girl's. Zifeng smiled bitterly. Ha ha ha, senior brother Zifeng, that's because you don't know Lu Ming. When you get to know him for a long time, you won't be surprised at what he does. Tian Chui laughed loudly. Tian Chui, Xuening Xin, Long Yuanshan, and the others all knew what was going on. Previously, Lu Ming had said that he had a 50% chance of killing the divine child. Hence, it was natural that he would be able to kill Luo Shuihan easily. In the fighting ring, Lu Ming put away Luo Shuihan's storage ring and sacred weapon spear. These were his spoils of war, so he naturally wouldn't be polite. Then, with a shake of his spear, Luo Shuihan's body flew out of the fighting ring. Whoosh! Everyone was shocked when the black dragon spear pointed at the divine child. This was because the direction Lu Ming was pointing at was the divine child. Divine child, just you wait. You're next. Lu Ming pointed his spear at the divine child, his killing intent cold. I will send you down to accompany Luo Shuihan, the divine child said. As his eyes opened and closed, a terrifying sacred light flashed. All around, everyone was suddenly filled with anticipation. They were looking forward to the battle between Lu Ming and the divine child. Previously, most people thought that Lu Ming wasn't qualified to fight with the divine child at all. Perhaps he would be killed by the celestial god sect at the treasure sorting convention. Even if he was lucky enough to pass the treasure sorting convention, he wouldn't stand a chance against the divine child. But now, they were suddenly filled with strong anticipation. Lu Ming had killed Luo Shuihan with a flip of his hand. He was simply unfathomable. Who knew if Lu Ming was hiding his strength? Perhaps he could really fight with the divine child. Buzz! In Lu Ming's hand, the black dragon spear shook, and the blood on it was shaken off. Then, he put away the black dragon spear and returned to the spectator stand. Now, let the battle continue. Po Yuan Gui announced. The competition continued, but the rest of the competition was already dull and boring. Those who were watching didn't have the mood. They were all looking forward to the battle between Lu Ming and the divine child. Those who were fighting also didn't have the mood. With Lu Ming around, did they still have any hope of fighting for first place? With Lu Ming's combat strength, he could easily defeat them. Moreover, there was also Zifeng from the Dragon God Valley. Due to the fact that they had more people, they had been leading in points. So, how could the other sects compete? There was no longer any hope, so their battle was just a formality. Soon, the round ended, and the next round began. Lu Ming, Mo Yang. Po Yuan Gui's voice rang out, and Mo Yang's face suddenly turned pale. Lu Ming and Mo Yang stepped onto the fighting ring and stood opposite each other. Mo Yang, you said that you would kill me. Wait a minute, you won't just admit defeat, right? I don't think you're that cowardly, right? Lu Ming said. Mo Yang gritted his teeth, and his face turned pale. Initially, he had intended to admit defeat. However, after hearing Lu Ming's words, if he admitted defeat, he would be admitting that he was a coward. Lu Ming was deliberately putting him on the spot. Begin. At this moment, Po Yuan Gui announced. Bang! Lu Ming stepped out, and the fighting ring roared. I admit defeat, I admit defeat. Chapter 1696. As soon as the unification of shattered energy was announced, Mo Yang immediately admitted defeat. He didn't dare to delay at all, as he was afraid that he would be instantly killed by Lu Ming. Lu Ming stopped in his tracks and said disdainfully, "You really have no guts. You were all high and mighty before, saying that you were going to kill me. Where did that go? Mo Yang's face was red, and he wanted to find a hole to crawl into. He lowered his head and returned to the spectators' stand without replying. Now, the more he spoke, the more he would humiliate himself. He hated Lu Ming, but he didn't have the courage to fight Lu Ming to the death. Ninth junior brother, this result is within my expectations. He's just a coward who bullies the weak and fears the strong, Tian Chue said. That's right. The words of this kind of person are like farts to him, Xuening Xin added. Burp. Mo Yang clenched his teeth so hard that they almost broke. Lu Ming, I'll let you be arrogant for a while. You'll still die at the hands of the divine child later. I'll tolerate you for now, but in the future, I'll kill all of these people from Dragon God Valley. Mo Yang roared in his heart. The competition continued. There was no suspense in the following competition. Anyone who met Lu Ming directly admitted defeat, including the top 10 geniuses. Haha, junior brother Lu Ming, I admit defeat. I'm no match for you. Later, Zifeng also met Lu Ming and admitted defeat. Later, Lu Ming met Luo Xiong. Lu Ming thought that Luo Xiong would fight him, but he didn't expect Luo Xiong to shake his head and say, Lu Ming, we'll have another chance to spar in the future. I'm no match for you now. After saying that, he directly left the fighting ring. Just like that, Lu Ming defeated all of his opponents in a sweeping manner. All competitions in this year's treasure sorting convention are over. When the unification of shattered energy was announced, Dragon God Valley cheered enthusiastically. Dragon God Valley had won, and there was no need to calculate the points. They all knew that Dragon God Valley had won. Lu Ming had swept through everyone by himself. Adding on the 10 points awarded to him, there was no longer any suspense. The Divine Dragon Valley has won first place in this treasure sorting meeting. The 2 primordial treasures belong to the Divine Dragon Valley for safekeeping. We will compete again in 3 years, Po Yuangui announced. Ha ha ha, now, give me the 2 treasures. The Purple Dragon Valley Master stood up and looked at the great sage of the Heavenly God sect. The great saints of the Heavenly Divinity sect were extremely indignant. He had brought the 2 treasures with him, but he had never thought of handing them over. With the Heavenly Divinity sect's lineup, it was certain that they would take first place this time. They did not expect the 4th-layer Martial Dominator Realm Kid who claimed to challenge the God's Son 3 years ago would possess such outstanding strength, killing Luo Shuehan and defeating the others, helping the Dragon God Valley to come first in the trial. Now, he had no choice but to hand it over. Damned little bastard, you can't even rest when you're about to die. The great sage of the Heavenly God sect roared in his heart. In his opinion, Lu Ming would definitely be killed by the Divine Son. There was no doubt about it. There could not be another possibility. However, even if Lu Ming was dead, the Dragon God Valley would still come first in the trial and have the 2 treasures for 3 years. What is it? Why are you so hesitant? Are you not going to hand it over? The Purple Dragon Valley Master said with a hollow laugh. Fine, you won't be able to discover anything in 3 years, the great sage of the Heavenly Divinity sect said coldly. It had been so many years, and one of the 2 treasures was said to contain the secret to achieving the martial monarch realm. However, no one had managed to discover anything after so many years. He did not believe that the Dragon God Valley would be able to discover anything in 3 years. He took out a storage ring and threw it to the Purple Dragon Valley Master. The Purple Dragon Valley Master received it and scanned it with his spiritual sense. Lu Ming's eyes flickered too. He was not too interested in the other treasure. He was hoping to obtain the fragment of the prison-suppressing boulder. Bang! The sky buzzed as a powerful pressure descended. The God's Son stood in the air, his body glowing with sacred light. He stood above the fighting ring and looked down at Lu Ming coldly. Many people were shocked. Were the God's Son and Lu Ming going to fight? Lu Ming, I'll give you time to recover, the God's Son said coldly. Why do I need to recover? We can fight now. Lu Ming swept his gaze toward the Divine Son. He rose into the air and stood opposite him. There was no doubt that Lu Ming and the God's Son had become the focus of attention. Are they finally going to fight? Someone murmured. In fact, many people had come to the treasure convention to watch the battle between Lu Ming and the god's son. Do you think Lu Ming can fight the god's son? It'll be difficult. The god's son entered the saint realm a year and a half ago, but Lu Ming is only a half-saint. Moreover, he's only in the second stage. The gap is too big. It's almost impossible for a non-saint level battle saint to fight. Moreover, the god's son is stronger than the average saint realm. Lu Ming has no hope. Many people discussed, and some sighed. They thought that Lu Ming was no match for the god's son. Go master. Beat him. Xiong Xiong waved her little fist. Long Yuanshan, Yang Tianzong, Tian Chue, Xuening Xin, and the others watched quietly. They could not help but worry. Sacred light danced on the god's son. Even his eyes turned into milky white sacred light. He said coldly, Lu Ming, although your combat strength is not bad, I'll let you know the difference between a non-saint level battle saint and a saint realm. Bam! The god's son stepped out like the son of God. Sacred light burst forth, and a powerful aura pressed down on Lu Ming. Then, he slapped out, and a huge palm print of sacred light pressed down on Lu Ming. Sacred power surged, and the precepts flowed. It was extremely terrifying. You're only using the power of a luminous saint realm? You're really looking down on me. The corners of Lu Ming's lips curled into a cold smile. He did not dodge and threw a punch. Lu Ming's fist shone, and the shadow of a tablet could be vaguely seen. Boom! An earth-shattering roar sounded. The huge palm print of sacred light was shattered by Lu Ming's punch. Lu Ming rushed through the sacred light and attacked the god's son. Many people were shocked. Lu Ming's combat strength was too terrifying. He directly broke the god's son's attack and took the initiative to attack the god's son. Could Lu Ming really have the combat strength of a saint realm? At the thought of this, many people widened their eyes and held their breaths. They stared at the scene without blinking, afraid that they would miss the key scene. The god's son's eyes turned cold. His palms emitted a bright sacred light, as if they were two pieces of milky white sacred stone. They were crystal clear and holy. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. His palms continued to attack Lu Ming. They were extremely terrifying, as if they could destroy everything. Lu Ming's palms flowed with the law of primal chaos as he used the suppressing hell skill. He was not afraid at all, and continued to attack. Dong, dong, dong. Dense collisions sounded. Lu Ming and the god's son had collided hundreds of times in an instant. Every time they collided, there was a dull roar in the sky. The two of them crossed each other like two streams of light. Some of the weaker cultivators could not see them clearly. Dong. After the last attack, the two of them kept retreating. However, Lu Ming only retreated 3 steps, while the god's son retreated 9 steps. The god's son was at a disadvantage. Chapter 1697. This is impossible. Everyone in the celestial divine sect roared in their hearts, finding it difficult to accept all of this. In their hearts, the divine child, who was invincible among his peers, had actually been forced into a disadvantageous position by a half-saint with his cultivation of the saint realm. This was simply like a fantasy story. How is this possible? How is this possible? Mo Yang shook his head again and again as he roared in his heart. All this time, he had never taken Lu Ming seriously, thinking that he could easily crush Lu Ming. However, he did not expect that this time, his imagination would be completely overturned. Previously, Lu Ming had easily killed Luo Shuihan, which made his heart tremble. Facing Lu Ming, he did not even dare to fight and directly admitted defeat. He thought that Lu Ming would definitely die at the hands of the divine child. However, he now realized that Lu Ming had not used much of his strength before, and now, he could actually suppress the divine child. Why is he so strong? Why am I not the strong one? Who is Lu Ming? What qualifications does he have to have such combat strength? Mo Yang roared in his heart, feeling extremely jealous. Lu Ming, you really did not disappoint me, but this is far from enough. In the celestial divine sect area, Xian Yanjuan's eyes sparkled as he whispered in his heart. On the other hand, the Dragon God Valley was already cheering. Divine child, is this your combat strength? It doesn't seem to work. Lu Ming's slightly mocking voice rang out. There was a trace of surprise in the divine child's eyes as he said, Lu Ming, your combat strength is indeed beyond my expectations. Unfortunately, you have met me, so you are destined to die. Bang! The divine child stepped out, and the holy light on his body became even more intense, turning into a pillar of light that shot into the sky. Bang! Bang! Next, the Son of God took one step at a time toward Lu Ming. With every step he took, the aura on his body became stronger. In the end, the Son of God's aura was so powerful that it was several times stronger than before. Great achievement of the Bright Saint realm. In the Dragon God Valley, the Purple Dragon Valley Master could not help but let out a cry of surprise. What? The Son of God has already reached the great success stage of the Bright Saint realm. So fast. The Great Bright Sage realm is several times stronger than the Small Bright Sage realm. Lu Ming is finished. The deity's cultivation is too high. Lu Ming is no match for him. What a pity. Lu Ming is indeed incomparably powerful and rarely seen since ancient times. If he was given a few more years, he might even be able to fight against a divine child. Heaven is jealous of geniuses. The time given to him is too short. Many people sighed, some shook their heads, but there were also some who rejoiced in Lu Ming's misfortune, hoping that he would be killed. For example, Silver Dragon Valley's Yin Zisong and the others all had ferocious expressions on their faces, hoping that Lu Ming would be killed. The strength Lu Ming displayed this time was too shocking. If Lu Ming was not killed, where would there be room for them in Dragon God Valley in the future? Haha, Lu Ming, you will die in the end. Mo Yang was laughing in his heart, but his face was full of malevolence. Wang. Above the deity's head, a small snow-white pagoda emerged and rapidly grew in size. At the same time, a battle sword appeared in his hand, covered in holy light. There was no doubt that these were all sacred weapons. Wang. The small snow-white pagoda grew to the size of a mountain and suppressed Lu Ming. With the deity's great bright sage realm cultivation, the power of the sacred weapon was extremely powerful. At this moment, light spots appeared on Lu Ming's body, and from each light spot, a sacred weapon flew out. A total of 36 sacred weapons were suspended around him. The others were dumbfounded, and they almost bit their tongues. 36 sacred weapons. Lu Ming had taken out 36 sacred weapons all of a sudden. Most of the people were dumbfounded. Most people had never even touched a sacred weapon, and had only seen others use it. But now, Lu Ming had taken out 36 sacred weapons all of a sudden. It was infuriating to compare oneself to others. What's the use of having so many sacred weapons? The deity said coldly. The huge pagoda shone and suddenly pressed down. Around Lu Ming, the 36 sacred weapons aura connected with each other and converged on a large cauldron. Go! Lu Ming waved his hand, and the large cauldron rapidly grew in size and collided with the huge pagoda. Boom! Like two mountains colliding, the sky shook violently. After the large cauldron and the huge pagoda collided, they were evenly matched and retreated together. Kill! The deity held a long spear in his hand and charged at Lu Ming. The long spear pierced the air and made a terrible whistling sound. Lu Ming was not afraid at all. He grabbed the black dragon spear next to him, and the aura of the sacred weapon gathered and the precepts circulated as he charged at the deity. The light collided in the void, and the force was rampant, sweeping in all directions. Around them, powerhouses like Valley Master Purple Dragon waved their hands and laid down a defensive light screen. Otherwise, those below the Saint realm would have died if they were hit by the force. Great Saint Light Technique. The deity roared, and the sacred light on his body became even brighter. In the end, it turned into a sacred light armor that covered the deity. The deity's power was even stronger. The deity's spear of punishment pierced through the void, and there was nothing it could not destroy. The deity began to suppress Lu Ming. Kill! Lu Ming shouted and activated the divine sword art. Two pitch-black rays of light burst out from his eyes and rushed into the deity's forehead. The deity's forehead shone brightly, and the deity only shook slightly, as if nothing had happened. Lu Ming's current soul power was equivalent to the Bright Saint initial success, But the deity was an existence of the bright saint great success, and most likely had a way to defend the soul. Lu Ming's divine sword art had little effect on the deity. Chaos. Lu Ming whispered. A chaos flipping sky seal appeared in his left hand, and he threw it at the deity. The chaos flipping sky seal grew rapidly and pressed down, making the deity's face turn grave. He controlled the giant pagoda to crash against the chaos flipping sky seal, but the deity's spear of punishment in his hand did not stop, and he attacked Lu Ming. Lu Ming held the black dragon spear in his hand to meet the attack. Boom! The giant pagoda was sent flying, but the chaos-flipping sky seal disappeared without a trace. Again, Lu Ming condensed another chaos-flipping sky seal in his hand, and he attacked the deity. Lu Ming condensed the chaos-flipping sky seal while fighting the deity with the 10,000 soldier art. For a moment, the two were evenly matched, and the battle became a draw. They kept colliding in the void, and it was extremely fierce. Lu Ming was at a disadvantage in terms of cultivation, as he was only in the second stage of the half-saint realm. Back in the 100-tribe battlefield, Lu Ming, his second body, and Bubble had killed an existence of the bright saint great success in a few moves. But that was because the three of them worked together. If Lu Ming's main body was alone, he could at most suppress the existence of the bright saint great success slightly, but he definitely could not kill the other party. But now, Lu Ming had 36 saint weapons sealed in his body, and he had cultivated in seclusion in the Dragon God Valley for more than a month. He had finally cultivated the chaos-flipping sky seal to the 6th level. Lu Ming's main body's overall combat power was stronger than when he was in the 100-tribe battlefield. However, because the saints outside could operate their precepts more smoothly, their battle prowess was stronger than the saints in the 100-tribe battlefield. Chapter 1698. Lu Ming and the deity fought fiercely. In the blink of an eye, they had exchanged more than 100 blows. At this moment, everyone present was no longer shocked, but numb. They were numb to Lu Ming's combat strength. Lu Ming's combat strength had exceeded their imagination. They had never heard of a Stage 2 half-saint being able to fight against a greater achievement bright sage saint. Moreover, the other party was a demonic genius. Everyone was only focused on the final outcome of this battle. Everyone held their breaths and clenched their fists. They watched nervously without blinking. They knew that this battle was destined to be recorded in the history of Zhangzhou. It would be known as a pinnacle battle. Lu Ming's main body was surrounded by 36 sacred weapons. He held the chaotic sky-flipping seal in his hand. He looked like a god of war. On the other hand, the deity's pagoda floated above his head. He held the spear of divine punishment and was covered in sacred light armor. He looked like the Son of God. The two fought in the void and exchanged more than 10 blows. At this moment, the deity's son started to feel anxious. Even with his cultivation level, he still couldn't take down Lu Ming. He was extremely shocked. Lu Ming must die. If this continues, I won't be his match in a few years. The deity's son couldn't accept this thought. However, he knew that it was the truth. Therefore, he had to kill Lu Ming today. Sword of Sacred Light. The deity shouted. A snow-white sword flew out from between his eyebrows. As soon as the sword appeared, Sword Chi soared into the sky and stirred up the clouds. Great sacred weapon, damn it! The Purple Dragon Valley's Valley Master shouted furiously. The others in Dragon God Valley were also shocked. The deity had refined a great sacred weapon. A great sacred weapon was much stronger than an ordinary bright sage weapon. It was the exclusive sacred weapon of a supreme saint. Lu Ming and the deity's son were evenly matched. However, the great sacred weapon had broken the balance. Sword of Sacred Light, slash. The deity put away the spear in his hand and held the sword of sacred light. He slashed out and a terrifying sword light slashed toward Lu Ming. Boom! This sword strike struck the primal chaos cyclic sky seal that was bombarding him. The primal chaos cyclic sky seal shook violently before exploding in the air. Then, the Son of God stepped forward with his sword in hand and slashed at Lu Ming again. The black dragon spear in Lu Ming's hand swept out towards his opponent. Clang! The radiant sword struck the black dragon spear, causing it to vibrate violently. Lu Ming felt a terrifyingly sharp qi surge towards him, causing him to involuntarily retreat. The holy light sword did not stop and continued to slash at him. Lu Ming's mind moved, and the holy weapons around him blocked in front of him. They were all defensive types. Boom! Boom! The saint weapons vibrated and several of them were sent flying. Lu Ming had to retreat several steps before he was able to block the attack. Now that the divine sun had taken out his great sage weapon, his battle prowess had increased greatly. Lu Ming was already at a disadvantage. Kill. The Son of God held his sword and charged towards Lu Ming again. Holy weapons danced around Lu Ming as he activated his battle weapon qi and fought with his opponent. After the previous battle, Lu Ming stopped using the Primal Chaos Cyclic Sky Seal. Although the Primal Chaos Cyclic Sky Seal was powerful, it consumed too much energy. If he continued to use it, he would definitely run out of true essence. Kill. The Son of God shouted. His killing intent was wild as he launched a torrential attack on Lu Ming. Up until now, he had not killed Lu Ming. To him, it was a great humiliation. He wanted to kill Lu Ming as soon as possible. Lu Ming blocked with the 10,000 weapon art, but he kept retreating. He was suppressed by the Son of God. Swoosh. After blocking the Son of God's sword strike, Lu Ming soared into the sky. You want to leave? You can't. The Son of God said coldly. He soared into the sky and charged towards Lu Ming. Who said I'm leaving? Lu Ming's voice was heard. At this moment, Lu Ming's glabella shone and a figure walked out. Ming Lian's second body. As soon as the second body appeared, the Tai Chi array disc floated in the air. A Tai Chi pattern suppressed the Son of God. At the same time, Lu Ming's main body also attacked. He looked down from above and became one with his spear. He turned into a dazzling spear radiance and swooped down towards the Son of God. The Tai Chi array disc had the power of sealing and destruction. It floated above the Son of God, trying to seal and destroy him. Whoosh! Lu Ming's main body's attack arrived. The spear radiance pierced towards the Son of God's glabella. Holy light burst out from the Son of God's body. He roared and slashed out with his sword, hitting Lu Ming's spear radiance. Boom! The Son of God's body fell. Kill. Ming Lian's second body controlled the Tai Chi array disc and continued to suppress the Son of God. At the same time, he operated the array law. Endless runes spread out and formed a battle sword that slashed towards the Son of God. Lu Ming's main body continued to attack. The main body and the second body joined forces, not giving the Son of God a chance to catch his breath. Everyone present was dumbfounded. How could there be two Lu Mings at the scene? How dare you use two against one? You've broken the rules. The great sage of the celestial god sect shouted, his eyes cold. Are you blind? I can't tell. The aura of the two Lu Mings is exactly the same. They're clearly the same person. This is just a secret technique. Although the Valley Master of Purple Dragon Valley was shocked, he sneered and refuted the great sage of the celestial god sect. That's right. This is just a secret technique. The two of them are actually the same person, just like clones. What's wrong with that? If you're so capable, ask the Son of God to use his clones too. Tian Chui said. Mph, it's not your turn to interrupt when the elders are talking. You're so insolent. The great sage of the celestial god sect waved his sleeves, then turned his head coldly without saying a word. Indeed, Lu Ming's main body and second body had the same aura and soul fluctuations. They were clearly the same person, just like clones. However, they were much more advanced than clones. The two bodies could cultivate different cultivation techniques and comprehend different laws. This was simply unbelievable. No matter what, since they were the same person, it was not against the rules. Asking the Son of God to use his clones was a joke. The strength of the clones was only a fraction of the real body's strength. Moreover, using the clones now would only weaken the combat power of the real body. It was not wise at all. Lu Ming's main body and second body attacked continuously. The attacks were like a storm, not giving the Son of God a chance to catch his breath. The situation had completely reversed from before. Now, It was the Son of God who was at a disadvantage. Lu Ming kept attacking. Is the Son of God going to lose? It can't be. A non-saint is going to kill a saint. Oh my God, this is too terrifying. Many people could not hide the shock in their hearts and exclaimed, Lu Ming, I didn't expect you to force the Son of God to this extent. No wonder I lost to you and the Xie family in the divine wilderness continent. However, this is not enough. The Son of God still has a secret technique that he hasn't used yet. Xian Yanjuan's eyes flickered with surprise as he muttered. Lu Ming's main body and second body attacked continuously. They cooperated with each other and their power increased greatly. Son of God, is this all you've got? It seems like you're the one who will die today. Chapter 1699. Xian Yanqing had told him that the deity had another secret technique. Once he cast it, his strength would increase tremendously for a short period of time. He had to be on guard. Lu Ming, you're courting death. You forced me to do this. Holy explosion technique. The deity roared. Boom. At this moment, the deity's body glowed with holy light. The holy light armor on his body exploded and turned into holy light that entered the deity's body. At this moment, the deity's aura skyrocketed and rushed toward the peak of the bright sage realm. What? The deity has another secret technique. What a terrifying secret technique. His aura has begun to skyrocket. It's so powerful, and it's still rising. Even his aura has changed. Many people exclaimed. Roar. At this moment, the deity let out a beast-like roar. His eyes turned red, and there was a trace of ferocity on his face. The pure white holy light on his body was no longer pure, and there was a trace of blood in it. Lu Ming, die. The deity roared and slashed out with his sword. The Tai Chi pattern was broken by the sword and dissipated in the air. At the same time, the sword light struck Lu Ming's long spear. Lu Ming's body shook violently. He felt an irresistible force coming at him, and his body flew into the sky. Kill. The deity roared. He took a step forward and charged forward. The sword light was shocking, as if it could destroy everything. Countless runes appeared on the second body and turned into various weapons that flew toward the deity. At the same time, the Tai Chi array plate shone and another Tai Chi pattern appeared. Then, the Tai Chi pattern split into two and turned into a pair of yin and yang fish swords that slashed toward the deity. Bam! 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 The deity's sword light easily destroyed the various weapons formed by the second body's array principles. The sword light struck the yin and yang fish swords. Clang! Clang! Sparks flew in all directions, and the sword chi was rampant. The yin and yang fish swords were sent flying. Buzz! In the sky, a huge chaotic cyclic sky seal pressed down on the deity. Behind the chaotic cyclic sky seal, Lu Ming swooped down with 36 sacred weapons and attacked the deity. Holy slash! Break! The divine child roared and slashed out with his sword. A beam of sword chi of saint light shot up into the sky. It was tens of thousands of feet tall, as if it could split the world in two, and slashed at the chaotic flipping sky seal. Sizzle! When the sword light struck the primal chaos flipping sky seal, an ear-piercing sound was heard. The sword light was actually breaking through the primal chaos flipping sky seal quickly. Bang! In the end, the primal chaos flipping sky seal exploded. The sword light did not stop and collided with Lu Ming behind the primal chaos flipping sky seal. Terrifying vibrations continued to ring out as Lu Ming's saint weapons were sent flying one by one. Lu Ming's body was once again sent flying into the air. What a powerful force! Lu Ming was also shocked. After the deity used his secret technique, his strength increased by several times. However, Lu Ming was not afraid. Instead, his eyes revealed a strong fighting spirit. Fight! 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 Lu Ming did not retreat. Instead, he closed in. His main body and second body attacked the deity at the same time. All kinds of attacks bombarded the deity. The deity held the supreme saint battle sword in his hand. A beam of sword light slashed out and destroyed Lu Ming's various attacks. Then, the battle sword continued to slash out. Beams of dazzling sword light surged toward Lu Ming. Bang! 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 Explosions continued as Lu Ming's various attacks were destroyed. His body retreated. Kill! The deity turned into a beam of sword light and shot up into the sky, attacking Lu Ming's main body. Clang! 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 The sword light bloomed, and the saint weapons that surrounded Lu Ming were sent flying one by one. In fact, a crack had appeared on one of the shields after being slashed by the battle sword. Lu Ming, you are dead meat today, the deity said coldly as he continued to attack Lu Ming. Swoosh! A beam of sword light almost split Lu Ming's body in half. Lu Ming did not call out Bubble for help. Bubble was a spiritual beast and was not considered within his combat strength. If he called out Bubble, the supreme saint of the celestial god sect would probably intervene. He could only rely on himself. Whoosh! Lu Ming's main body retreated quickly. His second body stepped forward and controlled the Tai Chi array disc to suppress the deity. Clang! The deity's sword slashed the Tai Chi array disc. The Tai Chi array disc shook and was sent flying. It was not that the Tai Chi array disc was weak, but that the second body's cultivation was limited and could not unleash much of its power. Kill! The deity charged toward Lu Ming's main body again as if he had his eyes on Lu Ming's main body. Lu Ming tried his best to block, but he was no match for the deity. He was in danger and was almost cut in half again. He narrowly avoided the attack. Lu Ming is out of tricks. He is using all his strength. Yes, he is strong enough. But he is no match for the deity. He is going to die here. What a pity. At this point in the battle, it was obvious that Lu Ming had used all his strength. Unfortunately, he was no match for the deity. Poof! The sword light swept across Lu Ming's body and a bloody wound appeared. Blood flowed out. Lu Ming, you don't have a chance anymore, the divine sun bellowed. His attacks were like a violent storm. Lu Ming was in danger. But even in danger, Lu Ming's face was still calm. He used the law of chaos to the extreme and fought with the deity. At the same time, his second body also continuously attacked the deity. The law of chaos. Deity, I will use you to break through the law of chaos. In danger, Lu Ming was exceptionally calm. His essence, energy, and spirit were highly concentrated. The true origin in his body was operating to the extreme. The law of chaos was also operating to the extreme. The more dangerous it was, the more potential it could stimulate. Poof! A sword light pierced through Lu Ming's shoulder. But Lu Ming's spiritual body was so strong that it contained a wisp of chaotic chi. It was not weaker than a mid-level heaven spiritual body. The spiritual body immediately squirmed and sealed the wound. It destroyed the destructive power of the sword chi so that it would not cause too much damage. The law of chaos, the law of chaos, these words kept appearing in Lu Ming's mind. His spirit seemed to have entered a mysterious state. The ethereal state of life and death. When facing the fatal threat of the deity, Lu Ming finally entered that state again. Buzz! At this moment, there was an invisible wave in the sky that rushed into Lu Ming's body. That is, the law of chaos. Someone yelled. Lu Ming has broken through. He actually broke through in the battle with the deity. Unbelievable. He is going to break through the law of chaos. Is the battle going to be reversed again? Everyone was shocked. The overlords of the heavenly divine sect even stood up and unleashed their energy. The law of chaos needs some time to adapt to the law of chaos. Deity, kill him now. The great sage of the heavenly divine sect yelled. Lu Ming, be careful. Purple Dragon Valley Master also yelled to remind Lu Ming. Everyone knew that this battle had reached a critical juncture. If Lu Ming could survive the time his body needed to adapt to the law of chaos, he might be able to reverse the battle and kill the deity. Lu Ming's combat power was already terrifying enough. If he broke through again, he might really be able to defeat the deity. Besides, the deity's secret art could increase his strength in a short period of time. But that was only for a short period of time. If that happened, the deity would definitely die. Chapter 1700. Lu Ming, you don't have a chance. Kill. The Son of God shouted and raised his combat strength to the maximum as he charged at Lu Ming. Lu Ming retreated quickly. Lu Ming indeed needed some time to adapt to the law of primal chaos. This was the most dangerous time for him. You can't escape. The Son of God chased after him. Whoosh, whoosh. A pair of yin-yang fish swords slashed at the Son of God. Get lost. The Son of God slashed out with his sword and sent the yin-yang fish swords flying. He seemed to have seen the difference between the primary and the secondary. He stared at Lu Ming's main body and ignored the secondary body. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Concentrated air-piercing sounds could be heard as the second body took out 21 phoenix feather flying swords. They formed a sword formation and stabbed toward the divine sun. Get lost, get lost. The Son of God swept his sword and the sword chi broke through the air. The phoenix feather flying swords were all sent flying. But at that moment, Lu Ming's secondary body appeared in front of Lu Ming's main body and blocked it. At the same time, his hands were waving rapidly. In the air, countless inscriptions appeared and large arrays appeared. There were all kinds of defensive, entrapment, entanglement, and offensive arrays that rushed at the Son of God. Now, the secondary body's main purpose was to stall for time. Trying to stall for time? Break. The Son of God was furious. With a sweep of his sword, the arrays were broken one by one. The secondary body took a few steps, and with every step, countless inscriptions appeared. One after another, large arrays appeared in the air. Although these large arrays couldn't hurt the Son of God, it was good as long as they could delay him a little. The secondary body's hands were constantly waving, and inscription talisman scrolls appeared and were opened by the secondary body. The various arrays in the inscription talisman scrolls shone and fell toward the Son of God. These inscription talisman scrolls were the ones that he usually refined. As for Lu Ming's main body, he retreated quickly and tried his best to adapt to the law of primal chaos. Kill. The Son of God roared. Sword light swept out and countless large arrays collapsed. A sword light pierced toward Ming Lian's secondary body at a terrifying speed. Ming Lian's second body waved his hand and dozens of layers of defense appeared in front of him. However, these defenses were like paper in front of the sword light. They couldn't withstand a single blow and were instantly pierced through. Puff! The sword light pierced through the chest of Ming Lian's second body, and a big hole appeared. Master! In the stands, Lu Xiongxiong cried out in grief. Junior brother Lu Ming, Tian Chue, Xuening Xin, and Long Yuanshan clenched their fists so tightly that their veins bulged. Everyone at the scene was staring at the battle intently. The battle had entered a critical moment. This battle had exceeded everyone's expectations. At first, many people thought that this was a battle without any suspense. They thought that the divine child could easily kill Lu Ming. However, when the battle between the two really began, it was beyond everyone's imagination. This battle was full of suspense. From the beginning, no one could have predicted the outcome. The two of them continuously used their trump cards and engaged in a peak confrontation. Even now, no one could guess who would win in the end. Everyone's hearts were in their mouths, as if they had forgotten to breathe. Some of the youths were even trembling with excitement. This was a battle between geniuses. They were too far away from the clash between geniuses. Puff, puff. Ming Lian's second body's chest was pierced through, and he spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. However, his eyes were still calm. He took a step forward, and dense inscriptions filled the air and a large array appeared. Between his eyebrows, the golden spiritual fire burned fiercely, and the law of array Tao flowed through his body. Above his head, the Tai Chi array diagram emitted a dazzling light. Another Tai Chi array diagram appeared, and it turned into the yin-yang fish sword. The deity's attacks were relentless as streaks of terrifying sword light slashed out. Every single sword light could easily kill an existence in the bright Saint Minor completion. All of the formations had been swept clean. Clang, clang. The yin-yang fish sword was sent flying. Ming Lian's second body dodged quickly, but he was still swept by the sword light, and one of his arms was sent flying. However, Ming Lian's second body still stood firmly in front of Lu Ming's main body, and tried his best to resist. Get lost. The divine child roared crazily. His secret technique had a limited time, and he could not delay. However, Ming Lian's second body had endless means, and he retreated as he fought, blocking in front of Lu Ming's main body. For a moment, he could not rush over. Puff! Ming Lian's second body was slashed by the sword light again. This time, it was more serious. His waist was cut open, and he was almost completely cut into two. Die! The divine child shouted, intending to completely obliterate Lu Ming's second body before killing Lu Ming's main body. You're the one who's going to die. At this moment, a cold voice sounded, and a figure suddenly appeared in front of the second body, throwing out a punch. Boom! This punch landed on the sword light, and the sword light vibrated. The divine child's body trembled, and he felt a storm of power surging toward him. He could not help but retreat. This figure was Lu Ming's main body. How is this possible? The body needs to adapt to the law of array Dao. How can you adapt so quickly? The divine child shouted in disbelief. How long had it been? Less than a minute, and Lu Ming had already adapted. Others are others, and I am myself. Divine child, you are the one who will die today, Lu Ming said coldly. With a wave of his hand, he put Ming Lian's second body into the mountain river diagram. Although Ming Lian's second body was severely injured, he would recover after a period of rest. Lu Ming had indeed completely adapted now. The law of chaos flowed through every muscle and cell of Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming felt that he was extremely powerful now. Initially, it was impossible for Lu Ming to adapt to it so quickly. However, Lu Ming had refined a wisp of chaotic aura and his body contained chaotic aura. The law of chaos was very similar to chaotic qi, which was why Lu Ming could adapt so quickly. Monster, what a monster! He is different from the rest. Someone exclaimed. So what if he has adapted? So what if he has stepped into the law of chaos? If he doesn't become a saint, he will still be an ant. Kill! The divine child roared and charged at Lu Ming. Boom! Lu Ming threw a punch and blasted the divine child's sword radiance. Then, two black sword radiances burst out from his eyes and rushed into the divine child's glabella. Ah! The divine child screamed and his body shook. As Lu Ming had broken through to the third stage of the sage-to-be, the law of chaos, his soul power had also improved. It was equivalent to the soul power of a great success bright sage, which was equivalent to the divine child's. Using the divine sword art would naturally have a great impact on the divine child. 9 seals of the divine gate. Lu Ming made a gesture with his hands, and 9 sealed doors appeared and surrounded him in the middle. Then, a huge chaotic flipping sky seal appeared and suppressed the divine child. With the breakthrough in cultivation, Lu Ming had improved in all aspects, and his combat strength had skyrocketed. Break! The deity endured the excruciating pain in his soul and roared. He slashed out beams of sword light, breaking the 9 sealed doors. However, the chaotic sky flipping seal was already pressing down. The deity could only block it with his sword. Boom! Chapter 1701. The divine sun retreated, spitting out large mouthfuls of blood. Lu Ming stepped forward, and a huge cauldron appeared in his body. Lu Ming grabbed one of the legs of the huge cauldron and lifted it up. He used the huge cauldron as a hammer and smashed it toward the divine sun. Lu Ming was extremely powerful now. His body contained the law of chaos, and every move he made was as heavy as a mountain. When the cauldron smashed down, the horrifying wind pressure made it difficult for the Shenzi to breathe. The Shenzi could only block with his sword. Clang! The cauldron hit the Shenzi's battle sword, and the sword buzzed as he retreated again. Boom! 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 Then, Lu Ming lifted the cauldron and smashed it down like a storm, not giving the Shenzi any chance to breathe. One step behind, one step behind. The Shenzi was forced into a disadvantageous position and could only block with his sword. Violent explosions continued to be heard, and the Shenzi kept retreating. His body trembled, and blood kept flowing out of his mouth. Crack! After several consecutive clashes, a crack appeared on the huge cauldron in Lu Ming's hands. It was covered with sword wounds. The Shenzi's battle sword was a supreme sacred weapon, after all, while the cauldron in Lu Ming's hand was a supreme sacred weapon. It was normal for the supreme sacred weapon to be unable to withstand the continuous attacks. However, Lu Ming did not care at all. He had plenty of supreme sacred weapons. Even the supreme sacred weapons sealed in his acupoints could be replaced. Dong. The last hit cracked a large part of the cauldron, but the Shenzi was also forced to retreat. Chaotic flipping sky seal. Lu Ming waved his hands, and a huge chaotic flipping sky seal was formed and pressed down on the Shenzi. This was Lu Ming's full attack. The Shenzi used all his strength and slashed out with his sword, but the chaotic flipping sky seal pressed down, and the sword light collapsed. The chaotic flipping sky seal hit the Shenzi, and the Shenzi's body fell down like a meteorite. Below him was the battle platform. Boom! The Shenzi fell on the battle platform, half kneeling on it, and spitting out blood. At this time, the Shenzi's aura was rapidly weakening. In an instant, the Shenzi's aura had weakened many times, and he was barely at the Saint Realm. His secret technique's time was up. Clearly, this secret technique of his had a side effect. Once the time passed, his strength would rapidly decrease. Whoosh! Lu Ming landed on the fighting ring and looked at the deity coldly. The divine sun's face was pale and his clothes were stained with blood. His eyes were filled with unwillingness and disbelief. He had lost. He had actually lost to Lu Ming. God's son, 3 years ago, you were so high and mighty. You saw me as an ant and you could kill me. Did you think that today would come? Lu Ming said coldly. Ha ha ha, I hate that I didn't kill you 3 years ago. The divine sun laughed as if he had gone mad. 3 years ago, you wanted to kill me, but you couldn't because my senior brother was there. People like you can only show off because you have a higher realm. Without the advantage of a higher realm, you are nothing. Now, I'll send you on your way to accompany Luo Shuehan. As soon as Lu Ming finished speaking, he stepped forward. The cauldron had already disappeared, replaced by a battle sword in his hand. Stop. Enough. A few angry roars could be heard from the Heavenly God Sect spectator stand. Powerful auras burst out and pressed down on Lu Ming. What are you doing? Are you going to do it because the young one can't do it? Valley Master Purple Dragon also released a powerful aura as he stared at the Heavenly God Sect. Beside Valley Master Purple Dragon, the other Sage Realm experts of the Divine Dragon Valley did the same. God's son, you can't die. The great sage of the Heavenly God Sect said coldly as he looked at Lu Ming coldly. Can't die? What a joke. 3 years ago, the God's son and I agreed to a life and death battle. Either I die, or he dies. Lu Ming sneered and stepped forward to attack the God's son. The God's son's face changed and he quickly retreated in the direction of the Heavenly God Sect spectator stand. If you dare to attack, I'll kill you. The great sage of the Heavenly God Sect said coldly. A god's punishing spear appeared in his hand and he charged at Lu Ming. A great sage was extremely terrifying and his strength was much stronger than a sage realm expert. A casual attack from him was earth-shattering. Lu Ming immediately felt goosebumps all over his body and his muscles tensed up. At this moment, a dragon roar was heard and a purple light burst out, clashing with the god's punishing spear of the great sage of the Heavenly God Sect. Then, in a flash, Valley Master Purple Dragon appeared in front of the great sage of the Heavenly God Sect and said, "You're shameless. You lost the life and death battle and a great sage attacked. I'll be your opponent. Get lost." The great sage of the Heavenly God Sect shouted and thrust out his spear as if it could pierce through the void. Valley Master Purple Dragon's body emitted purple light and he threw out a punch, clashing with the god's punishing spear. The sky was filled with purple and white. God's son, you can't escape. Lu Ming continued to charge at the god's son. You're courting death. Kill him. A few sages of the Heavenly God Sect rushed over and charged at Lu Ming. Kill. Lu Ming shouted and executed the divine sword art. The few sages trembled and Lu Ming's battle sword slashed down. Puff. A great success sage expert was slashed in half by Lu Ming's sword. Even his sage heart was shattered. A great success sage expert was killed by Lu Ming's sword. The surrounding people were dumbfounded and speechless. This kind of combat power was too terrifying. A non-saint had killed a saint, and the one he had killed was a great success bright saint. The other sages of the heavenly god sect felt a chill down their spines. However, what welcomed them was another slash from Lu Ming. Bang! A saint in the initial stages of the bright saint realm had used a saint weapon to block, but the saint weapon had collided with his own body. Together with the saint weapon, he had smashed into the battle stage, causing it to crack. As for that saint, he was deader than dead. At this moment, the sages of the Divine Dragon Valley arrived and blocked the sages of the Heavenly God sect. Lu Ming stepped towards the god's son and closed in on him instantly. The god's son's face turned even paler. Lu Ming, how dare you kill the god's son? The Heavenly God sect won't let you go. The great sage of the Heavenly God sect shouted. The god's son was a rare genius of the Heavenly God sect. He had a high chance of breaking through to the absolute saint realm in the future. They had already lost Luo Shuihan. The god's son couldn't die. Previously, they couldn't interfere with Luo Shuihan's death during the treasure sorting assembly. However, now that it wasn't the treasure sorting assembly, they had to protect the god's son. Then I'll flatten the Heavenly God sect. This was Lu Ming's reply. He was overbearing and instantly closed in on the god's son. Kill. The god's son knew that he couldn't escape. Madness flashed in his eyes as he held his sword and charged towards Lu Ming. However, his current strength was only equivalent to a great success sage expert. He wasn't a match for Lu Ming at all. Lu Ming slashed with his sword and struck the combat sword of the Divine Sun. The combat sword vibrated and the terrifying power made it difficult for the Divine Sun to hold the sword. The combat sword, which was at the level of a great sacred weapon, was sent flying. Lu Ming used his true origin to suck the battle sword into his hand and put it away. Lu Ming, let's die together. Chapter 1702. Lu Ming shot out 2 rays of black light from his eyes and pierced into the deity's body. The deity's soul felt like it was being torn apart, and the true origin in his body stagnated. Poof! Lu Ming's combat sword pierced into the deity's dantian and shattered his saint heart. The deity's power of law turned into a beam of light and shot up into the sky. No! The supreme saint of the celestial god sect roared. The deity's eyes widened and were filled with indignation. With his talent, he would have become the overlord of Tsangzhou in the future. However, he had met Lu Ming. 3 years ago, Lu Ming was only a LV4 martial royal realm cultivator, while the deity had reached the limit of the sage-to-be and possessed the power of law. He did not take Lu Ming seriously at all. He was overbearing and fearless. At Chilong Lake, he had scolded Lu Ming and the others. Later, when Lu Ming and the others had obtained the treasures of the Dragon Palace, he felt that he had lost face. He was overbearing and wanted to kill Lu Ming at the treasure sorting meeting. At that time, Lu Ming had challenged him, but he did not take him seriously. If it had not been for Yang Tianzong, he would have killed Lu Ming. Even though he had agreed to the challenge, he did not take Lu Ming seriously. How strong could a LV4 martial royal realm cultivator be in 3 years? He was just an ant that he could kill with one slap. However, at the treasure sorting meeting, Lu Ming's combat strength had exceeded his expectations. He had killed Luo Shuihan easily. At that time, he still did not take it seriously. He had reached the great sage realm and had many trump cards. No matter how strong Lu Ming was, he was only a sage-to-be and would not be a match for him. However, when the battle came, he realized that he was wrong. Wrong meant death. Deity's son, since you are stronger than Luo Shuihan and won't cry and beg for mercy, I will give you a quick death. Lu Ming said coldly. His combat sword vibrated and destructive power surged into the deity's son. The deity let out an indignant roar and turned into ashes under Lu Ming's destructive power. The deity's son was dead. At this moment, the rest of the people present did not know what to feel in their hearts. It was incomparably complicated. The deity's son, who had suppressed many geniuses in Tsangzhou for more than a decade, had been killed by a young man with a weaker cultivation. Deity's death meant that an even more terrifying genius was born. In the future, who would be a match for Lu Ming's Could it be that after the Kang Emperor, another great emperor would be born in the Kang state? How could this be? Mo Yang muttered to himself in the Sky Universe Demon Sect's grandstand. Heaven of the heavens of the heaven of the heaven of heavens heaveness Xianyanjuan whispered in the Celestial God Sect spectator stand. Her eyes were shining. Once the deity sun died, the Celestial God Sect would be hers. No one could compete with her. Lu Ming, I want you to pay for it with your life. The great sage of the heavens of heaven roared. He wanted to tear Lu Ming into pieces. However, Valley Master Purple Dragon held him back and he could not free himself. The other sects looked on coldly. No one interfered. This was not the treasure-sorting assembly. It was just a personal feud between Lu Ming and the deity. They had no reason to interfere. Moreover, the Heavens of Heavens sect had expanded too quickly over the years. They were strong and had become the #1 sect in Tsangzhou. If the deity's son grew up in the future, he would be a great enemy. However, the experts of the various sects looked at Lu Ming. When Lu Ming grew up in the future, who could be his match? Some of the experts of the sects, such as the Heavens of Heaven Demon Sect and the Poison Sect, had flickering eyes. No one knew what they were thinking. Boom. Boom. Valley Master Purple Dragon and the Great Sage of the Heavens of Heavens sect exchanged dozens of blows before retreating. Valley Master Purple Dragon retreated to Lu Ming's side to protect Lu Ming. The Great Sage of the Heavens of Heavens sect was unwilling. He knew that he could not kill Lu Ming today. The Heavens of Heavens sect had been completely defeated in this treasure-sorting assembly. 2 of their strongest sky prides had died. The loss was too great. He did not know how to explain it when he returned. Lu Ming, Divine Dragon Valley, the Heavens of Heavens sect will remember this debt. We will repay it sooner or later. The Great Sage of the Heavens of Heavens sect looked at Lu Ming. He did not hide his strong killing intent. He then waved his hand and shouted, "Disciples of the Heavens of Heavens sect, let's go." After saying that, he stepped into the air and left. All the elders and disciples of the Heavens of Heavens sect followed him. Haha, Lu Ming, well done. Valley Master Purple Dragon came to Lu Ming's side and smiled. But just as he finished speaking, his face suddenly changed. He looked in the direction of the Heavens of Heavens sect. Lu Ming did the same. Boom. A pitch-black hand suddenly appeared in the sky not far away. It was bigger than a mountain and it grabbed at the people of the Heavens of Heavens sect. Who are you? You're courting death. The Great Sage of the Heavens of Heavens sect was furious. He formed a long spear in his hand and pierced it towards the large hand. But just as the Great Sage of the Heavens of Heavens sect made his move, a few terrifying sword lights shot out from Kang Mountain. They instantly traversed hundreds of miles and slashed towards the people of the Heavens of Heavens sect. Puff, puff. Suddenly, dozens of disciples of the Heavens of Heavens sect were killed by the sword lights. Boom. The long spear of the Great Sage of the Heavens of Heavens sect pierced through the large hand. However, a few figures flew out from Kang Mountain and rushed towards the people of the Heavens of Heavens sect at lightning speed. The person in the lead had a terrifying aura. He was a great sage expert. The other people were also Saint Realm experts. Before they arrived, all kinds of terrifying attacks were launched towards the people of the Heavens of Heavens sect. Who are you people? The Great Sage of the Heavens of Heavens sect was furious. Saint Light filled the air as he stood in front of the disciples of the Heavens of Heavens sect. The other saints of the Heavens of Heavens sect also stood in front of him to block the attacks. At the peak of Kang Mountain, everyone was puzzled. Who were these people attacking the Heavens of Heavens sect? Could it be that some other sect was targeting the Heavens of Heavens sect? But at this moment, a terrifying aura rose from the surroundings of Kang Mountain. Rays of terrifying sword lights and saber lights rose up and attacked the people of the various sects with terrifying might. Oh no, enemy attack. Block it. Many people's faces changed. The great sages of the various sects unleashed all kinds of terrifying attacks to block the sudden attacks. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. At this moment, many figures rushed out from the surroundings of Kang Mountain. Every one of them was wrapped in black robes, but the aura they exuded was extremely terrifying. Their sage aura was vast and mighty, suppressing the heavens. The number of people was astonishing. There were at least 50 to 60 of them, and all of them were sage experts. There were even more than 10 of them whose auras were as deep as the sea, unfathomable. They were not any weaker than Valley Master Purple Dragon and the great sages of the Heavens of Heavens sect. Great Sage Realm. At least a dozen of these people who had suddenly appeared were at the Great Sage Realm. Kill. Kill everyone. Leave no one alive. A black-robed man said coldly. Kill. Dozens of sage experts rushed towards the peak of Kang Mountain from all directions. Attack. At this moment, all the experts on the peak of Kang Mountain exploded. The bright sages and great sages of the 12 top sects all attacked at the same time. Between heaven and earth, there was a terrifying roar. Valley Master Purple Dragon was up against a black-robed man. The black-robed man was also a great sage, and his combat strength was not any weaker than Valley Master Purple Dragon. The two of them fought fiercely. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,